The Leafs won? The Leafs won! And they clinched a series against Tampa. Let's go!
Give me what I want!
Kick down the door!
Drew, you are not doing this!
Not nice! There's a giant head!
You hear yourself?
I made like 2,000 of these. I'd like to have fun.
With you wherever you are, welcome to LFR.
Victory Puppy Ziggy, are you a member of the Zohornet's nest? Oh, you're a dog. Anyway, good boy. Buzz, 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 buzz. Leafs win 3-0 over the Ottawa Senators in Toronto. I'm just being told off camera. That was in Ottawa. Oh my goodness. By the way, if you've ever been to a Sens game, you know why Leaf fans dominate the place. Because the distance between downtown Ottawa and where the Sens play is about equal to the distance between Toronto and Ottawa. Leaf fans are like, we've come this far, let's just keep going. Before we talk about the Hornets' nest that was kicked over in Ottawa, or at very least the outskirts of Ottawa, think you know which way it's gonna go? Well, then you need to go with Sports Interaction. When the puck drops, Sports Interaction has you covered pregame, live betting on all major sports. Baseball is so back! And prop bets. Want to bet? Head to sportsinteraction.com/SDPN and you can download the app using the QR code on the screen, but only if you're 19 plus. Please play responsibly. If you watch my stream on Sportsnet's YouTube channel, you'll know exactly what I thought of this game as it was happening, at very least after the first period. Because it started to look like, yet again, a game where the Leafs were completely asleep to start the game. They get utterly dominated by the other team in the first 5-10 minutes of the game, and then the Leafs would proceed to dominate the rest of it. It sort of started that way. The Senators got a bunch of shots, and then they got a power play, and then they got a bunch more shots, and stops, though. Stops was the important part from Ilya Samsonov, who was starting on the road. Feels like that shouldn't be relevant to point out, but here we are! Usually he's completely pedestrian on the road and Vezina caliber at home. But when it looked like the Sens were starting to dominate, I was like, uh-oh, the Leafs are playing poorly. And by the end of the first period, I was like, oh no, it's just both of them. The shots were 9-5 after the first period. And check this out from David Alter. The scoring chances were 2-0 in favor of Ottawa in the first period. 2-0. That's it. It was just low event hockey. Very low. Like, it started with the Sens doing what they did really effectively against the Leafs the last time these two teams collided, where they were just on the Leafs like poop on Velcro, and they were all up in their face, and they were skating with speed, and they were forcing the Leafs to the outside, and they were crunching them along the boards and forcing them into battles that the Sens won very often. That is how it started. And then it was just, neither of these teams can generate offense because all this game is being played in the neutral zone. Now, of course, the Leafs did win. The Leafs did get the shutout. A Mona Lisa work of art, it was not. Because I work on those streams on Sportsnet's YouTube channel, I got some of the more advanced stats from Sport Logic. They do some great stuff. And here's an idea of how not dominant the Leafs were in this one. Goals, 3-0 for the Leafs. That part's good. That's the only part that matters, and I think it's the only part that they win. Shots, 31-20 for Ottawa. The Leafs won with 20 shots. They won by 3 goals with only 20 shots. Expected goals, 3.08 to 1.12 for Ottawa. Puck in ozone time, 24-28 to 22-59 for Ottawa. Ozone possession time, 6 minutes and 38 seconds to 5 minutes and 41 seconds. Slot shots on net, 12-8 for Ottawa. Scoring chances off the cycle, 14-4 for Ottawa. That was largely helped by the power play, but even still, they would have won it without the power play. Scoring chances off the rush, 5-4 for Ottawa. Odd man rushes, 5-5. A tie. Controlled entries, 36-26 for Ottawa. Controlled entry success rate, 55.6 to 38.5 for Ottawa. Controlled exits, 82 to 73 for Ottawa. Controlled exit success rate, 78 to 69.9 for Ottawa. Those are the overall stats. The even strength stats are far more even, but you can see where I'm coming from here. But think of the context. Here's the context. This is the first half of a back-to-back for the Leafs. They called up Radim Zohorna, who, it's virtually impossible that he plays in the Stanley Cup playoffs for the Leafs, barring a mass amount of injuries. So the Leafs are in, let's just try this guy mode, and they have the Slurpee lineup with the 7-11 setup, 7 defensemen. The Senators, meanwhile, they lose this game. They are basically dead in the water. They win this game, they're 3 points out of a playoff spot. It's fathomable. It's fathomable they could stay in the fight. Funny, over the last week or so, the Leafs keep finding themselves in a position where they're playing against these dog-hungry teams who are giving like a Game 7 effort because every game is Game 7 for them. And I don't know if you noticed, but the Leafs usually don't do well against teams that are playing in a Game 7. Meanwhile, the Leafs are playing very much let's get this over with hockey. And why not? You got a back-to-back against the Sens and Red Wings. You know you're going to play Tampa. You know you're going to play Tampa. Yes, you're fighting for home ice against Tampa, but you very likely have home ice against Tampa unless you basically lose out. All that to say, no, the Leafs did not play like the better team. But given the context, the Leafs are clearly the better team. One team is fighting for their lives, and the other team's just... They showed up, they played, they won. I'm not saying that game meant nothing to the Leafs, but it meant less to the Leafs than the Sens. And to prove a point, the Leafs came out completely different in the second period. They turned it on for the exact amount of time that they had to, and then shut it right off. Michael Bunting, things haven't been going his way recently. He hasn't been getting a lot of goals, he hasn't been getting a lot of points, he hasn't been getting nearly as much time in the top six as he is used to. But just follow that bouncing puck. Jake McCabe on the right side in this instance with TJ Brody banks the puck off the boards. He did this to success several times tonight, especially after the first intermission when the Leafs clearly saw something vulnerable in the Sens defensive game. Banks it off the boards, Kampf shanks it, it's in the offensive zone, hooray. Puck is in the air. Tyler Clevin, who's a very young player in this league, swats at it. The puck hits his teammate. That teammate falls down and yard sails into Clevin. Bunting collects it, spins, fires, scores! Dragon Ball Z Selly from the man with the most Vegeta-like energy on the entire team. Out there on a line that I don't know if it's going to stick together, but it's scored here with David Kampf and Sam Lafferty. And the Leafs have the 1-0 lead off a nice little play and a bit of a blunder. Later in the second, much different looking play, but not all that dissimilar. The Leafs with a nifty little play and the Sens with a brain fart. Tavares wins the faceoff. Alex Kerfoot gets the puck. Kerfoot just yeets a backhand pass across the ice to who knows. The Sens said, do you know? Do you know? Do you have any idea? Here, can I show you a picture? So if you're looking for the puck in the screenshot, it's right next to John Tavares' foot there. He's in the middle of the screen. And it goes by John Tavares' foot. The problem with this going by John Tavares' foot is look at the time and space William Nylander has. How dare you look at the game notes? Listen, I don't know if that's a high success pass that Kerfoot sent through, but he's been playing pretty well offensively lately. Willie receives it in his feet, something that the Leafs have done really well recently and did really well in this game. Has all the time in the world to shoot and score. Mads Søgaard, the 22-year-old goaltender who's in such a difficult situation, stops just a little bit of it, but not enough of it. It's 2-0 Leafs. And less than 2 minutes before the end of the second, I am sorry, but this is how we knew it was done. Generally, I think Kyle Dubas has done a wonderful job with the Toronto Maple Leafs, but his losses are noted. For example, the Kadri trade is not looked on terribly fondly by the fan base at large, but underratedly, the constant trade down from Mason Marchment. It starts with a victory of theirs. They find Mason Marchment as a free agent, and he builds his way up from the ECHL to the AHL, plays a few games in the NHL. He looks actually pretty decent, but then they trade him to Florida for Dennis Malgin. At the time, it kind of looks like a win of a trade. Malgin has played far more games in the National Hockey League, and he's younger. Well, a combination of the COVID shutdown, keeping Dennis Malgin in Europe, and Mason Marchment just kind of wrecking shop made that trade stink. This year, Malgin finally comes over, he plays a little, he scores a little, and I mean a little, so then he gets traded to Colorado. In Colorado, he actually has success, way more success than he had in Toronto, and the guy he was traded for, Dryden Hunt, banged and crashed for a few games before being promptly sent to the Marlies. Trade deadline comes around, the Leafs have done all their trading, but what did I say at the time? Kyle Dubas never goes to trade deadline without making at least a little move. One year he did Per Lindholm for Nick Petan. He loves it! And this year he did Dryden Hunt to the Calgary Flames for Radim Zohorna. Oh dear, they traded down again, did they? No! Because Radim Zohorna snipes it! We're gonna call that a snipe! It was. He beats Mads Søgaard, and I think that is why Søgaard did not Start the third. Zohorna scores his first goal as a Leaf. Go get that puck in his first game as a Leaf, and the stat is ridiculous. From Luke Fox, Maple Leafs co-leaders in shots tonight. This is at the second intermission. Austin Matthews, in 16 minutes and 44 seconds of ice time, 3 shots, 0 goals. Radim Zohorna, 3 minutes and 35 seconds, 3 shots, 1 goal. Radim absolutely Zohorna. The Zohornet's nest rise up! By the way, here's how I got there. Dennis Malgin fans were called the Malgin Hive. I don't know who gave them that name. I'm gonna choose Kyle Cushman of theleafsnation.com, but I don't actually know. He's just the person I most associate with the Malgin Hive. He was right, you know. So I made the joke, Zohorna Hive, rise up! Twitter user Connor Dawson pointed out, come on, Steve, Zohornet Hive was right there. And but do hornets live in a hive? Isn't it called a nest? It's a beehive and a hornet's nest. So that's why, even though Zohornet Hive is pretty good, I'm gonna go with Zohornet Nest. Can we do a poll in the comments? Like, we need to make a decision. Is it Zohornet Hive, Zohornet Hive, not Zohorna Hive, Zohornet Hive, or is it Zohorna Hive? Is Zohorna Hive better than Zohornet? Zohornet Hive or Zohornet's Nest? Zohornet's Nest is better. That's the LFR title, by the way, Drew. Anyway, the Leafs actually try in the second period. They outshoot the Sens 11-8, and they outscore them 3-0. Third period shows up, and it is very obvious the Leafs have no interest. They've started the bus. The Leafs had 11 shots in the second. That's pretty normal. They had 5 shots in the first. That stinks. And in the third period, they had 4. That stinks worse. But I tell you what, Ilya Samsonov was on one in this game. Even when he was behind the net breakdancing for no apparent reason, Ilya! He was playing the puck a lot. He wanted an assist bad. He almost gave one to the Sens, but he didn't. Almost. He didn't. And before the end of the game, Luke Schenn stepping into Brady Tkachuk. It looked like a huge hit. It might not have been quite as big of a hit as I thought in the moment, but Tkachuk hit the ground in a heap. And if you watch the replay, you can see why. Schenn, I'm going to say accidentally, goes in knee on knee with Tkachuk, and the hyper extension in Tkachuk's knee is disturbing, to say the least. And I tell you what, the Tkachuks are made of different stuff. Keith Tkachuk called the Florida Panthers soft. They were very not soft in their game against the Leafs, led by Matthew. He led by example. And then the Leafs' next opponent is Brady Tkachuk's team. The dude's knee bends the wrong way, and he's right back out there trying to get them on the board. As the Sens have 5 minutes. 5 minutes with 6 attackers. And they're diving to protect the net. Jake Sanderson was diving out there to protect the net. They needed this game. They needed these 2 points. And they couldn't do it against the Leafs sleepwalking. Worth mentioning, the Sens don't have Josh Norris. They don't have Thomas Chabot. They don't have Jacob Chychrun. They don't have the guy who was supposed to be their starting goalie this year. And I tell you what, the Leafs better be fresh for Detroit tomorrow, because they mailed in a lot of this game and got a great result out of their goalie. Shout out to Samsonov. From victory is never yours? I know you have the saying, if you're a goaltender, tend the goal! But is this what they call new dad strength? Because there's an Ottawa Senators player in there somewhere. Oh my goodness, look at this picture. It looks like he's... I'm sorry, it looks like he's birthing that Senators player. I would love to call that new dad strength. I would call it Samsonov being a silly goose. Man, you knock that off, Sammy. I've been saying that since you were a capital Sammy! From Adrian Fernando, are you Zohorny for Zohorna? No, that's why we're going with Zohornet's Nest. Nope, we don't like that. And from Soraya Tinker is an Isabel Cup champion. How do we feel about this? And of course, this is the Leafs' guaranteed series against the Tampa Bay Lightning. You know what? Beggars can't be choosers. I will take the Leafs winning any series in any way, shape, or form. I don't care if the series goes 7 and the Leafs get outplayed in all 7 and somehow win. Just win. If I were to get picky, however, if the Leafs... Listen, you're like me. You picture what it's going to be like the day they eventually do the thing. Wouldn't it be better if it was a path of revenge? Like I've said this before with the Washington Capitals in 2018, it's not just that they won. It's that they got to beat the Penguins on the way there. You know, they got to beat the Penguins on the way there. They also got to beat the Lightning on the way there. Typically, in recent years, if you want to win the Stanley Cup, you have to go through the Lightning at some point. If the Leafs were able to beat the Lightning, and then if the Bruins win their series, because it's not a given, it's likely, but it's not a given, then the Leafs get to take on the Bruins. Now, I'm making it sound like a treat. I assure you it's not a treat. But if they are going to do it, wouldn't it be amazing to go through them? So how do I feel about it? There are no easy paths to winning the Stanley Cup. Sometimes you think there's an easy path to winning the Stanley Cup, and then you lose anyway. How do I feel? Bring it on. And on that note, that is it for this one. Thank you very much for watching. Click like if you like this video. Click subscribe. If you really liked it, tell all your friends. It's Tampa time. It always had to be this way.